What's up everybody? So we've got a Nissan GTR Spec V drag set up for you today because in my last video with the Black Edition some people were asking for the Spec V, probably because the Black Edition is a DLC car and this one's readily available in the game from the start. So here we have it. Obviously first off you'll need a fully broken in GTR Spec V, and by fully broken in we mean it's got at least 200 miles on the engine for the maximum horsepower. Then you go into your in-game tuning store and buy all power mods available for the car, as well as weight reduction mods. So stage 3 weight reduction, stage 3 engine tuning, stage 3 turbos, and of course racing filters, exhausts, suspension, transmission and tyres. And then something we never covered in the last video was drivetrain. And when it comes to torque distribution, 45-55 is the best. Some YouTubers say 50-50, but they're wrong. 45-55 is the best. And if my cars are quicker than theirs, then that's all the proof you really need. For LSD, it's not really that big of an impact on quarter mile drive tuning. Some people go 60-65, but it's fine to leave it at default. Now transmission settings, reset to default, and quite simply follow what you see here. So for your ride height, I recommend the lowest on the front and the highest on the rear. And when it comes to spring rates, I recommend max on the front as well as maximum on the rear as well. And then this is where dubiety comes into play. Dampers, again, like the LSD, have claim differences, but they're that negligible, they're not really worth focusing on within the time frame of this video. So personally you can leave them at default and it won't do much harm. In fact, it's really dubious if it does any harm at all. And now the most important thing we want to focus on is transmission. And again, like the last video I've put up on the left hand side of the screen, we've got the transmission flip instructions, which is basically set your final gear to roughly around about 3.400. It's not exactly 3.400, you've got a rough threshold of probably about 50 on either side, so you can pick somewhere around about that margin and then follow the other instructions on the left hand side. So first gear, you want the furthest left it can go. Second gear, you just want it left. Third gear, you want it right. Fourth gear, you want it quite far right but not the max, and obviously fifth and sixth, furthest right it can go. And then to complete the transmission flip, you set the final gear right down to 2.500, and in turn you'll see in the top right corner that your maximum speed is increasing, and that's roughly where your trap speed will end up. And now you can see that's it. We've covered the drag setup for the quarter mile for the Spec V. So I'll open my settings sheet and you can pause the game here to see, to reference between my sheet and yours. Obviously the transmission won't be the same, but it will still be generally roughly the same. And now that's it. You can either go online and race your new car, or you can test it in speed test or special stage route X. Now if you don't have this addition to the game, it's because it's a downloadable content item. It's available from the PSN store and it will cost you, but it's not very expensive at all. And obviously here it's the same as online. No driver aids should be turned on because number one, it gives you an unfair advantage, and number two, most online lobbies disable them anyway. So what we're going to focus on here is an automatic RPM launch. I covered various different runs in the last video, but here, focus on the RPMs that I launch at. So if you notice there, basically when it comes to launching the car, you want the RPMs to be sitting at around 6 or 7,000 RPMs in the power band to give you an optimal launch. Now obviously a full throttle launch will give you more consistent results, but at the same time they'll also be consistently slower because you're not in the power band. Now if you're lost at what I'm talking about here, I'll restart the video and zoom in on the RPM gauge so you know exactly what I mean when I say RPM launch. Now you've seen there, again I launched roughly just after 6,000 RPMs in the power band, and again it's gave me an optimal run. So there you have it. Hopefully this tune that I've given you now, with some tweaking, should give you a very competitive online GTR Spec V. It should already have improved your times before you've even messed around with the settings. So again, like the last video, I'm going to show you the difference between automatic and manual. Now with the GTR, it's one of these few cars that actually, the difference between manual and automatic aren't that much. So if you can't shift manual, automatic is okay. But if you can and like to use manual, then there's no reason why you shouldn't use it, as it's obviously still quicker. Again, you can see there, always aiming to launch between 6 and 7,000 RPM. And the only thing with this method is, it's only really useful for setting the fastest possible offline time, because online, there's no way you'd ever be able to correctly anticipate when the ghost would tree. So, there you have it. If you've liked the video, please subscribe, leave a comment on what cars you would like to see a tutorial for next. Hope you've enjoyed the advice. But hey, it's just advice, right? Don't get all butt chafed if your advice don't match my advice. Because at the end of the day, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do.